Hey friends, welcome back to the CNC DIY Factory. I'm so glad you're here. Today I've got 5 easy and beautiful DIY decor projects to share with you, all made using the amazing goodies from the May edition of Sonnet's Curated Maker's Box. This month's box is packed with creative potential, and I'll show you how I use those items to turn 2 of our CNC DIY Factory's maker's frames and a decor cutting board, along with a couple of thrifted items, into farmhouse inspired home decor you'll be proud to display. If you're new, I'm Cindy, my husband is Chris. Welcome to CNC DIY Factory. If you are inspired and enjoy this content, please give us a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It truly helps our small business grow. For Project 1, I will be using Roycycled Treasures Le Fleur des Guides paper along with CNC DIY Factory's 9x12 Maker's Frame, which you can find on our CNCDIYFactory.com website, and I will have this maker's frame linked in the description box below. I want the frame to coordinate with the golden brown color of the words on the paper, so I chose the color Sandy Blonde DIY paint from this month's box, paired with Curry from Sweet Pickins milk paint. Now this milk paint is from a previous maker's box, which is one of the reasons I love subscribing to this monthly box. I can use any leftover items on anything I want. Sweet Pickins milk paint comes in a powder form that you mix with water. It is a 1-to-1 ratio, so however much milk paint you use, you add the same amount of water. The powder form will last forever, but once you mix with water, you only have a few hours to use it. The milk paint needs to be mixed thoroughly, and you can use anything you want to mix it. I like using this milk frother to mix my paint. Once it is mixed up, I'll set this aside for about 10 minutes to thicken up, because you want this to be close to the consistency of a melted milkshake. Milk paint tends to have a mind of its own. Sometimes it will crackle and craze, and other times it's chippy, or maybe it simply goes on smoothly. When working with raw wood, I like to put down a barrier such as the Sandy Blonde DIY paint. This keeps the milk paint from soaking into the wood and gives me a better chance to have the crackle and crazing effect with the milk paint. I also like to use a heat gun to quickly dry the milk paint. This gives me a better chance at getting the crackle and crazing that I'm looking for. I'm going to apply 2 coats of the milk paint and dry it between each coat. You can see the crackle form right before your eyes. I painted the entire frame, front, back, and sides, along with the backer board with both the DIY paint, Sandy Blonde, and 2 coats of the Curry milk paint. On the front of the backer board, I painted with a white chalk paint, so when I decoupage the tissue paper onto it, the colors will stay true and the tones of the surface of the backer board will not show through. I'm using DIY liquid patina as my decoupage medium. I line up my paper, fold back a portion of it, and lay down an even coat of the liquid patina. Spritz my paper with water, lay the paper down, and smooth it out with my paintbrush. This is my starter strip, and I keeps my paper in line where I want it as I work to adhere the rest of the paper in the same manner. Once the decoupage paper is completely dry, I use my finger sander in a downward motion to sand off the excess paper, leaving a nice crisp edge. The milk paint needs to be sealed, and you can use any sealer you like, whether it's a spray sealer, brush-on sealer, an oil, or a wax. I like to use the Sweet Pickins oil wax. It comes in clear, black, dark, and white, and I am using the dark oil wax for this project. I use a sponge brush to apply this in a nice even layer, then I set it aside for about 10 minutes to soak in. Then all you have to do is wipe it off. Be sure to use a lint-free cloth to wipe it back and to hold your project so you do not leave fingerprints in the milk paint. Now the front of this backer board is complete at this point, but it's a little too bright white for me, so I'm going to use some clear wax and lay down a layer of clear wax, and I'm going to come back with the Howard's Chalk-Teak dark wax and go around the edge and just give it a little bit of distress throughout the image, just to grunge it up a little bit, make it appear a little more vintage. I'm also going to use the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark around the edges and the corners of the frame, just to give it a little more vintage look. Now to put this together, I am using a frame tacker that you can get on Amazon, and the link is in the description box below. This frame tacker is one of my must-have tools. And here is our final project using the exclusive Roycycled decoupage paper in the May edition of the Maker's Box. I love that I can use items from a previous box alongside the current items to create beautiful home decor. For project 2, we are using a metal hanging basket and a metal birdhouse with one of the Painted Photographer's rice papers called A Garden Wakes. After I remove the tags and wipe down the metal items, I am applying one coat of DIY's White Swan to the front of the hanging basket. After trimming off the white border around the rice paper, it almost fits perfectly on this basket. I will need to piece together a small area on both sides, but it will not be noticeable on the end project. I'll use my DIY liquid patina as my decoupage medium. Once I have the paper lined up where I want it, I'll fold back a portion of the paper and lay down an even coat of the liquid patina. I'll spritz my paper and smooth it down with my paintbrush. This is my starter strip, and it should hold my paper in place while I continue around the basket. On the top of the basket where it is rounded, I am cutting in relief cuts perpendicular to the rim of the basket. This allows the paper to lay smoothly along the rounded top. I will continue to lay down the liquid patina and spritz my paper to work it around the basket. Now this is a slow process, and I'm taking my time with it so as not to tear my rice paper. Once I have my rice paper completely adhered to the basket, I'm going to trim off some of the tabs I created with the relief cuts. I'll use this to patch in the sides where the paper didn't quite make it all the way around. I'm not too concerned with color matching. I just want the texture and the appearance of the paper going all the way around the front. I'll use the finger sander to sand off the excess paper around the bottom of the basket. For the back of the basket, I'm using the DIY paint in Prom Queen from this Maker's Box and applying one smooth coat. But before that dries, I'm taking that same Prom Queen and mixing it with a little bit of cake batter from DIY to make a beautiful soft green, and applying that over the Prom Queen. This still is not exactly what I was looking for, so I'm also using the Sandy Blonde from the Maker's Box and stippling this over the wet DIY paint, creating a blended effect. This is what I was looking for. I'm going to set the basket aside while I work on the birdhouse. I'm using the Fusion Mineral paint in Little Star that was in the Maker's Box, and I am applying 2 even coats to this metal birdhouse. Now comes the fun part. I am using the patina paint in Iron by Dixie Belle, along with the green and blue patina sprays to create a rusted effect on both the birdhouse and the basket. I use an old fluffy paintbrush to apply the patina paint where I think the rust will be, and before it dries, I spray the green patina spray over the paint. The trigger on mine is broken, so I had to put the green spray into another spray bottle. After I apply the green spray, I go over it lightly with the blue spray. You can use a heat gun to accelerate the rusting process. Just be careful not to hold it in one place for very long. I'm going to follow the same process with the basket, adding the patina paint and then the 2 patina sprays and then drying it. The sprays are messy, so I make sure to have my surface area covered, and I work over a tray with paper towels in it to catch the excess. When using the heat gun, you can just see the rust coming up. It's just so fun to watch. One thing I have learned in my research and after using the patina paints and sprays is that this needs to be sealed with a specific product to stop the chemical reaction with the patinas. Dixie Belle has the sealer called Patina Paint Guard, and it is a thin liquid and it's very smelly. Apply this with a sponge brush that can be tossed once you are done applying the patina guard. And here is the finished basket using the Painted Photographer's rice paper, a garden wakes, along with the rusty birdhouse. I added another little birdhouse because I thought the final piece needed just a little extra. For project 3, I am using a new to the CNC DIY Factory website, standing cutting board with clip. You will be able to find this at cncdiyfactory.com, and I will leave the link to the website in the description box below. We're also using the Decoupage Napkin that was included in this month's Maker's Box. I'm starting off with staining the back of the cutting board along with the kickstand assembly with Minwax water-based stain in Legacy Brown. You can find this stain at Lowe's and Menards, and they can tint the stain to any color you want at the paint counter. I apply a layer of the stain and then spritz it with my water mister, then wipe back the excess to expose the beautiful grain in the wood. On the front side of the cutting board, I'm going to paint it with 1 coat of a white chalk paint. This is to make sure that the wood colors do not show through my decoupage napkin. I will be using the iron-on method to apply my decoupage napkin. I'm using DIY liquid patina as my decoupage medium, and I will apply 2 coats of this to the cutting board. To separate the plies of the napkin, I'll use the liquid patina to create a tackiness on my fingers, then pinch the corner of the napkin and pull the plies apart. The first coat of the liquid patina I will apply lengthwise, then dry it. And the second coat I'm going to apply it crosswise and then dry it. I like to apply the decoupage medium like this to ensure that I have applied enough medium to adhere the napkin and to cover every square inch of the board to maximize the adhesion and to keep from having any spaces that are not adhered. Once the liquid patina is completely dry, I will position my napkin on the cutting board and place a piece of parchment paper over the top. Then I'll use my craft iron with no steam and iron on the napkin. This method is great for flat surfaces when using napkins because it provides a smooth, wrinkle-free adhesion. Then I'll use my finger sander to sand off the excess napkin for a nice crisp edge. Before I attach the kickstand, I'm going to seal the entire cutting board front and back as well as the kickstand assembly. To assemble the kickstand to the back of the cutting board, I'm using Titebond Quick and Thick along with CA glue in the thick formula. Each of our DIY kits on our CNC DIY Factory website comes with a complete instruction sheet with pictures. This kickstand assembly will be included in each kit. Now that the kickstand is assembled, I'm adding the clip to the front of the cutting board. I'm using a small drill to make a pilot hole for the screw so I can easily attach the clip. And this cutting board looks great as it is, but it's still just a little too bright white for me. I'm going to apply a coat of the DIY clear wax, and I'm going to follow it up with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark, just to give it a little bit of dimension and grunge. Now this standing cutting board with clip looks fantastic with the Decoupage Napkin from the Maker's Box. Let me know in the comments if you are a subscriber to Sonnet's Curated Maker's Box. I would love to see what you create with these items. For Project 4, we are keeping things simple with our CNC DIY Factory 5x7 Maker's Frame, which can be found on our CNCDIYFactory.com website. I'm pairing this up with a 3-up rice paper by the painted photographer called Nestled in Time. I'm painting the back of the backer board and the entire frame with one coat of the DIY Prom Queen paint from this month's Maker's Box. The front of the backer board will be painted in a white chalk paint. I love that one of the painted photographer's rice papers is a 3-up paper. I am using the larger image in our 5x7 Maker's Frame, and I can use the 2 smaller images on other projects. As with most of my decoupage projects, I'm using the DIY liquid patina as my decoupage medium. I'm laying down an even layer, spritzing my rice paper with water, and smoothing out the paper with my brush. Once I have my starter stripped down, I will continue to adhere the rest of the rice paper. And once the rice paper is completely dry, I'll use my finger sander to sand off the excess paper, leaving a nice crisp edge. Okay, getting back to this frame, I'm going to use my finger sander and sand down the paint for a smooth texture. I'm also sanding the edge a little extra to have some of the wood peek through for the distressed look. Once I have this sanded, I'm going to use my DIY clear wax to seal in the DIY paint, and then I'm going to go over that with the edges with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark to give it more distress, dimension, and that vintage feel. If you are not yet subscribed to Sonnet's Curated Maker's Box and you are looking for ways to create outside of your comfort zone, I encourage you to get on the wait list. The 1-year anniversary for Sonnet's Maker's Box is coming up in June, and I know Sonnet has some exciting changes coming for everyone. I will leave a link in the description box for you to join the waitlist and be the first to know when she is opening up the opportunity for you to join the fun. Now to finish this quick and easy DIY decor piece, I am using the frame tacker, which I got from Amazon, and I'll have this linked in the description box below. This will secure the backer piece into the frame. We have taken a farmhouse style maker's frame, added some DIY paint and waxes, and showcased this beautiful rice paper from the painted photographer to create a simple and beautiful addition to any springtime vignette. For our fifth and final project today, I'm taking this thrifted step stool from my stash and transforming it into a gorgeous piece of decor. I am using the Sweet Pickins milk paint in avocado from this month's Maker's Box, along with the second exclusive paper from Roycycled Treasures called Floral Medley Masterboard. I had just a little bit of the avocado milk paint left over from a previous Maker's Box, so I am using that up today, and I still have so much left over from this month's paint sample. The Sweet Pickins milk paint comes in a powder form that will last forever as long as it is dry. Once you mix with water, you only have a few hours to use it. To mix the milk paint, it is a 1-to-1 ratio, so however much milk paint you use, you add the same amount of water. After I have thoroughly mixed the milk paint, I will set this aside for about 10 minutes to thicken up. You want this to be close to the consistency of a melted milkshake. Remember this red step stool? Well, I took this out to our shop and I sanded it down as best as I could. Then I sprayed it with 2 coats of shellac to seal in the red paint and keep it from bleeding through to my finished project. However, I really want to make sure the red doesn't peek through, so after using the heat gun to dry the first coat, I'm applying a second coat of milk paint. And I will use my heat gun to dry that second coat as well. And once the second coat is completely dry, I'm going to add a third coat of the milk paint. This time I'm going to let it dry on its own. It has enough crackle in there and I don't want it to peel. Now for the top of this little step stool, I'm going to apply 2 coats of the white chalk paint. This is to make sure that that red does not peek through, and I am just really impressed with the shellac and how it has sealed in that red paint. Roycycled Treasures masterboards have always been the talk of the town, and this one is no exception. I think this masterboard is my favorite. I have selected the perfect section to go on the top of this step stool, and once I have this cut out, we're going to decoupage this to the top. I'm using my DIY liquid patina as my decoupage medium, and once I have the placement of my paper, I will lay down an even coat of the liquid patina, spritz my paper to relax the fibers in the paper, and smooth it out with my brush. This project will take a little more time and finesse because of the grooves cut into the top of this step stool. I will take my time and go section by section to ensure the paper is relaxed and smoothed into the grooves. Decoupaging with Roycycled Treasures papers is so much easier than you might expect. The trick is to spritz it with water to get the fibers to relax. Once the paper is completely dry, I will use my finger sander to sand off the excess paper, and it'll leave a nice clean edge all the way around the top. To seal in this paper and to give it a rock-hard, solid surface, I'm going to use my Wise Owl 1-hour enamel varnish in matte. Now, besides sealing up the milk paint, I could be finished with this project, but if you know me, you know I tend to push my projects just a little bit more just to see what I end up with. This project is getting that little something something added to the top with the Pentart Fine Line Crackle. The Pentart Fine Line Crackle is a 2-step system, and you just saw me apply the first step with a clean dry brush. These steps need to be completely dry before moving on to the next step. Now I am applying the second step to the top, and I am using a crisscross pattern to apply it with a clean, dry brush. You can use a heat gun to help dry it, however, don't scorch it. You have to keep your heat gun moving. Once both steps are dry, you should be able to see the fine line crackle. Now we are applying the Pentart Antiquing Paste. This paste is perfect to use with this system. You simply brush it on and wipe it off. The Fine Line Crackle 2-part system is a water-based. However, you must seal it with a solvent-based sealer to stop the crackling. You cannot use a water-based sealer on this. It will gum up your surface and it will ruin your project. Ask me how I know. So please do your homework before you use this product for your best results. But if you are like me and can't wait to try this product, Pentart has your back. They have a solvent-based sealer that is perfect for this fine line crackle, and it's called Clear Varnish. And it comes in gloss and matte. I am using the matte formula. Since this is solvent-based, I'm using a sponge applicator that I can safely throw away. Once you have a coat of this varnish over the fine line crackle, it's safe to use any water-based products on top if desired. Well, I think all we have left to do is seal up the milk paint. You can use any type of sealer you choose. I am using the DIY clear wax, and then I'm going over the top of that with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark to bring out that beautiful crackle and crazing in this milk paint. Well, here is our final DIY project for the day. I think this one is my favorite, but sometimes it's hard to pick a favorite. I would love to know which one is yours, and if you have used any of these products I have shared with you. I hope I've inspired you to try different papers and mediums on your DIY projects. Remember, if you are not subscribed to Sonnet's Maker's Box, get on that wait list. June is going to be amazing with the changes she is bringing for her 1-year anniversary of the Curated Maker's Box. If you want to see more of what CNC DIY Factory has to offer, check out all of our YouTube videos, and I'm also live on Facebook every Thursday night at 6:30 Central to share new ideas, tips, and techniques, and I would love to have you join me. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps YouTube algorithm to send our content to others who would love it too. Any products I have featured from CNC DIY Factory can be found on our website, which is linked below. Keep practicing random acts of crafting, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.